In the early 1800s, long before fame meant a constant barrage of camera flashes and social media updates, one man became Europe's first true celebrity. He was a poet whose words could ignite a revolution, a rebel who defied every convention, a lover whose scandals captivated a continent, and an exile whose life was as dramatic as the stories he wrote. He was the man whose very existence blurred the line between art and myth. His name was George Gordon Byron, but the world would come to know him simply as Lord Byron. To his legions of admirers, he was the voice of freedom, the embodiment of passion. To his critics, he was a dangerous force of nature, a scandal wrapped in sheer genius. He was born in London in 1788, into a world of nobility and profound dysfunction. His father, a notorious womanizer and spendthrift nicknamed Mad Jack Byron, squandered multiple fortunes before abandoning the family. His mother, Catherine Gordon, was a woman of fiery and volatile temperament. Young George inherited a piece of both their personalities, along with a congenital clubfoot that left him with a permanent limp. This physical challenge didn't break him. Instead, it forged within him a defiant spirit that would echo through every single verse he ever wrote. At the tender age of 10, he inherited the title of 6th Baron Byron and became the master of the crumbling, debt-ridden estate of Newstead Abbey. It was there, among Gothic ruins and inherited burdens, that he began to meticulously craft the larger-than-life identity that would one day make him infamous. Byron's time at Cambridge University was less about academics and more about cultivating his reputation for magnificent excess. He famously kept a tamed bear in his dormitory, simply because dogs were forbidden. His days were a whirlwind of writing poetry, punctuated by long nights of drinking, gambling, and duels. In 1807, he published his first collection, Hours of Idleness. It was a youthful effort, and the literary critics of the day viciously mocked it. But Byron was not one to take a blow lying down. His revenge was swift and devastating. He penned a satirical masterpiece, English Bards and Scotch Reviewers, a brilliant poetic takedown of the entire literary establishment. He was only 21 years old, and already he was utterly fearless. Then came the work that would change not only his life, but the very definition of fame. Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, published in 1812, it was a long narrative poem about a disillusioned young nobleman wandering through foreign lands. A character who was romantic, cynical, achingly beautiful, and utterly doomed. The public went wild for it. Byron himself famously wrote, "I awoke one morning and found myself famous." Readers saw in the fictional Harold a perfect reflection of Byron himself, giving birth to a new archetype, the Byronic hero. Tall, dark, brooding, and restless, Byron became an instant icon of desire and rebellion. Women literally fainted at his poetry readings. Men, from aristocrats to commoners, desperately wanted to live like him. But this sudden, blinding fame carried with it its own dark curse. For every line of acclaimed poetry, there was a headline-grabbing scandal. His love affairs were the stuff of legend, involving a string of actresses, aristocrats, and most ruinously, a rumored incestuous relationship with his own half-sister, Gusta Lee. This whisper alone was enough to shatter his reputation in the rigid society of England. His brief, disastrous marriage to the intellectual Annabella Milbank collapsed in just under a year, fueling the fires of gossip and condemnation. By 1816, hounded by creditors and ostracized by society, Byron left England forever. He was 28 years old and would never set foot on his native soil again. But exile, it turned out, suited him. His first stop was the shores of Lake Geneva, where he forged a legendary friendship with the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley and his partner Mary, who would soon write the Gothic masterpiece, Frankenstein. That stormy summer of 1816, later dubbed the year without a summer due to a volcanic eruption, was a crucible of creativity. Confined indoors by relentless rain, they engaged in philosophical debates and ghost story contests. It was here that Byron wrote Darkness, a haunting, apocalyptic vision of the end of the world. The Prisoner of Childe, a profound meditation on freedom and isolation. This period marked his transformation from a scandalous society poet into an international revolutionary voice. From the quiet shores of Geneva, he plunged into the vibrant chaos of Venice. He lived a life straight out of one of his poems, surrounded by masked balls, moonlit gondola rides, and a seemingly endless parade of lovers. It was in this decadent atmosphere that he began his greatest and most daring work, Don Juan. This epic poem was part satire, part autobiography. It mercilessly mocked high society while unflinchingly exposing his own desires, flaws, and contradictions. It was shockingly funny, delightfully vulgar, intellectually brilliant, and undeniably modern. Yet Byron's restless spirit wouldn't allow him to stay still. In 1819, he fell deeply in love with Countess Teresa Guiccioli, a young married Italian noblewoman. Through her family, he became involved with the Carbonari, a secret revolutionary society fighting for Italian independence. For Byron, poetry and freedom were inseparable. Both were powerful acts of defiance against tyranny and control. By 1823, his winding path led him to the one final cause that would cement his legacy forever: the Greek War of Independence. The Greek people were fighting to throw off centuries of rule by the Ottoman Empire, and their struggle resonated with Byron's lifelong passion for liberty. He didn't just write poems about it. He poured his personal fortune into the cause, financing ships and supplies, sailed to Greece, trained troops, and was hailed as a national hero before he ever saw a single battle. In the besieged city of Missolonghi, while preparing to lead a crucial assault, he was struck down not by a soldier's bullet, but by a raging fever. On April 19, 1824, Lord Byron died. He was only 36 years old. When the news reached the Greek soldiers, they wept openly for the lord who had come to fight for them. When it reached England, even his most bitter enemies paused to acknowledge the loss of a giant. He had become larger than life, and now he belonged to history. But Byron's influence didn't die with him. He was a central figure in defining the Romantic movement, championing the idea that art should be driven by raw emotion, fierce rebellion, and radical individuality. The Byronic hero, that proud, haunted, untamable figure, became a blueprint for some of literature's most iconic characters, from Heathcliff in Wuthering Heights to the modern-day archetype of Batman. He proved that a poet could be both an artist and a celebrity, a sinner and a saint, a myth and a man. His heart was buried in Greece, a tribute to his final cause. His body was returned to England, but his legend continues to roam free, inhabiting every story that dares to make its hero flawed, passionate, and gloriously unrepentant. 2 centuries later, Byron's words still strike a chord, echoing with a fierce, undeniable truth. The great object of life is sensation, to feel that we exist, even though in pain. He lived his life by that creed, burning brighter than anyone, loving recklessly, and writing as if eternity itself were listening. He was the first modern celebrity, the original rock star, and perhaps the last of the great romantics. If you enjoy diving into the lives of history's most fascinating figures, make sure you like this video and subscribe to NovusThread. Stay curious, because we'll be unraveling another mystery of history very soon. Thanks for watching.